Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be my 3 favorite finesse techniques and the baits that I use on them and exactly how I rig them. One of them is pretty standard, but I have two different ways of doing them. So before we get into it, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe channel, hit the ring the notification bell. Helps the channel out a lot, and I appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get into this. First off is pretty standard, the shaky head. I'm a big fan of the shaky head. This is a 1/4 ounce. I don't really like anything heavier than 3/16 because I like to keep pretty good bottom contact. This is the Riot Baits probe. This is pretty much the only worm I actually throw on a shaky head. Really. Only time I'll ever change it up is if I'm throwing a big shaky head on a bait caster. Oh, and remember, all this stuff I'm throwing on spinning setup because this is finesse application. So a shaky head isn't necessarily only finesse, but it becomes finesse because I'm throwing it on a finesse setup. I'm throwing it on light line, stuff like that. I'm using smaller baits. Not that this is a smaller bait, but there are larger worms you could throw on there. And there's also a smaller worm to throw on here too that I'll show you, and that would be the synth from Riot. But I don't necessarily use this as a shaky head worm, and but I have something else I use it for, and it's all I use for it. Like I said, pro is pretty much all I throw on a finesse when I'm trying to finesse a shaky head. I prefer a shaky head that has a wire keeper like that. If you can see that, the little screw. I like a screw lock over pretty much any other style, and I prefer to have an EWG. It's not so necessary on light line or like in this application, but I do prefer one on a heavier shaky head, which I just kind of carry over. I found one that I really like, and it just so happens to have a EWG. But an EWG is a must for a heavy, or for, power fishing a shaky head kind of, bait casters, heavier line, bigger worms, or this worm. I still throw this worm a lot, really, even when I'm doing it on ledges and stuff. But the next is probably my favorite, and that's the wacky rig. This is a baton. This is also a Riot bait. This is specifically designed for wacky rigging. As you can see, the worm is segmented, and what that does is it allows for an incredible amount of kick as this thing butterflies down. And when it's on the bottom and it's sitting there, it really likes to kick well. A little tip for your wacky rigs: if you hook through the bait, it's no big deal. You're just gonna tear up more and you'll lose them. So it's definitely worth investing into some sort of wacky rig tool. This is the wacky tool, the original, I believe. You can buy these at Walmart or Tackle Warehouse or wherever. I recommend getting one because you will save more baits. But the main problem with using an O-ring is typically whenever you do it, you end up with the hook in line with the bait instead of like that, how you would whenever you hook through it. So what you do is you double O-ring, then you cross them, if you can see that. And what that does is it puts the hook in a better position, because whenever it's turned sideways in line with the bait, it's easy for the hook to be on its side and pull right through the fish's mouth. But with this, it is up and it's going into the fish's mouth. So definitely want to cross and double O-ring like that if you're wacky rigging with O-rings. Last, of course, the drop shot. Drop shot's a big deal for a lot of people. When they can't catch anything, they pull out the drop shot. For me, it's more of a wacky rig if I'm up shallow, which is where I usually am. But if I am out deeper, I will throw a drop shot. Now this is the synth Riot. This is where I use this worm all the time. This is the only worm I'll throw on a drop shot. It just does so good for me. I mean, I've thrown probes in the past and have had really good luck with them too. But whenever Riot came out with the synth not too long ago, these are so good. So this is a little morning dawn color. This does super good in clear water. Now, I prefer to nose hook, as you see. Now, the reason being is because whenever your hook will sit just like this in the water. So whenever it's sitting there, it lets it kind of sit straight. Now, a lot of guys like to Texas rig them like this because it makes it a little bit more weedless, and if you're shallow fishing a drop shot, then it's fine. Sometimes it is necessary. Just remember that your hook is still going to sit like this, so it puts the worm up, and sometimes it'll just kind of dangle over like that. So that is something to remember. Do I Texas rig them? Yes, I do whenever I'm fishing it shallow, and I do kind of prefer it. Usually, if I'm doing it this way, I usually fish it a little faster, a little harder, because it really keeps this thing kicking, and a lot of times it'll kick above, and I feel like that this presentation instead of flat, sometimes if you're doing this and it's, you know, summertime, fish are moving, they're aggressive, sometimes that kind of works a little bit better. So in this, I'm going to throw in a extra tip on how to Texas rig a drop shot on a finesse style hook like this. This is a Gamakatsu wide gap finesse. Here's the most common problem I see, and if you haven't seen my Texas rig video, it's the same problem. So people will Texas rig them like normal, like an EWG. They go straight in and out just like that, and then when you come up, they hook back into the bait. They end up with that. Now, a way around that, and again, if you've seen my Texas rig mistakes video, you know exactly how to fix that. You go through the bait at an angle like that. So see how I'm going through the bait? Then whenever you get up there, now it's straight. So also, whenever you're doing it this way, you have got to put a little dab of super glue up here at the front, because if not, your bait's constantly going to do this. So to save yourself some headache, put some super glue, just a little touch right there, keeps your worm on and keeps it right. So alright, that is it for today's video. If you like this, learned something new, if you enjoyed it, you know, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like on this video. I really appreciate it. So alrighty, thank you guys, God bless.